Tom Breeze here, and also
Ollie Bilson. How you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you. And today, what we're going to be talking about is, I suppose, and there's not necessarily a title to this, but more like the factor of like knowing, liking, and trusting somebody, and that indoctrination behind taking someone who's maybe not heard of us before to the point at which they really do know, like, and trust us, become a customer, and keep on buying from us as well. And so, Ollie, I'm going to pass over to you at this point because I know that you are like such a kind of a very, very intelligent and clever guy when it comes to like getting people within the funnel to really build that relationship with people. And I kind of like want to just grill you on a few things about like what's working right now. What have you seen that's like that you can do to really get into the hearts and minds of your customer, and kind of like maybe some strategies for people that are listening into this or watching the podcast stroke video that we're doing right now, and any advice that you would potentially provide on that front as well.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, mate. So I thought you were actually going to say you're really good at getting people to do what you want them to do. I thought
that's true as well.
You were like so close to it, and then you just stopped. So,
sorry. Should we start this one again?
yeah. So, okay, cool. So, yeah, I mean, look, we have everybody knows. I mean, if you've been around in marketing for any length of time, if you've read any books like Robert Cialdini or about influence. You'll know that know, liking, and trusting somebody before you engage in a transaction with them is something that needs to happen. You can't just go in cold and sell to people. That just doesn't happen unless there's an exact match for what they want. It just like immediately, it just doesn't happen unless you're intentionally going to buy something. Often we have to build relationships as marketers, and we have to be able to do that in a way that solidifies a lot of stuff. So indoctrination is a big part of that. Now, in recent times, with products and courses like Ryan Dice's and Digital Marketer, who make some amazing courses and products, a lot of that is predicated on their results and their success that they do in their own businesses as well. And, pretty much if I had £1 for every client that's come to me that's wanted us to implement something like the machine in their business, they love the idea of the indoctrination sequence and the email marketing machine that they promote. I could be a rich man. We do that for a lot of people, but indoctrination isn't a series of emails. That's what a lot of people think. It's not. It is really an indoctrination strategy is what really needs to be employed within most people's businesses, in their funnels, in their campaigns, to be able to get the best results from them. And when I think about indoctrination, it really, really comes down to your core story. And this really, as a small business owner, this plays directly really into how you can leverage that, because you have your own story. You have your company story. You have your own story that you can tell, and you can talk about your identity, your history, where you come from, and a lot of those things, a lot of those principles, that unique kind of picture that you're painting for somebody, allows people to have affinity towards you, has some empathy, and has some things that are congruent with maybe their situation or their problem or where they are now, and how you've overcome those problems, and ultimately how now you might be able to provide a solution to them. So you can't replicate somebody's story. It's just not something that you can do. Everybody's got a unique story. Everybody's got a unique background. Everybody's got different opinions and that have shaped them, and that's something that you can never take away from somebody. So, when it comes down to people in your marketplace that you may perceive to be your competitors, well, your story is often your unique advantage, your competitive advantage that differentiates you, and not a lot of people use that as an asset, and I don't know why, to be honest with you.
Okay, because this is a really interesting topic for me, because I know that I've got a variety of different clients, as you do, and I know that story is a key part of kind of like a customer wanting to do business with somebody else. And the story, if you get it right, and it is kind of just pulling out the parts of the story that you need to pull out, then you can really build that connection with people. What about like with lots of different types of businesses? So let's say, for example, I can see it from a marketer's perspective. Like if someone wants to buy something from me, if they know a little bit more about me and I've got a family with kids, etc. Not that I like to use that content because I know that deep down that's getting someone closer to a purchase, but I don't like to use that information sometimes like that. But it people love it when they do hear about that, and they build more of a picture of me as a brand, which is really, really important. But let's take it out of like the marketing world for a second. Let's say, for example, you're selling a physical product, or you are, let's say, an accountant, for example. I know in a previous episode we talked about accountants, so that's why it's fresh in the mind. But say, for example, you're selling a physical product. I've seen people like Dyson doing the vacuum cleaners, etc. Is that a good way of like bringing out your story, or is there a better way of doing it?
So the way to do that with that brands do it, like Dyson and also Mac have done this very well. Apple, I say Mac. It's just
there's the branding for you already. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's working so well. They've done this so well is actually what their brand as a company stands against.
Interesting.
That's like a big deal. So it's what they stand against that gives them their unique advantage. So often, if you remember the kind of viral videos that Apple did where they had I'm a PC and I'm a Mac.
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah,
it's making that differentiate. When you put those two things next to each other, you are able to say what you stand against, what your brand or your business doesn't believe in. So if you're, you can easily differentiate between, are you in this camp or are you in this camp? And that is a form of indoctrination, and it's a form of feeling like you're being part of something, that you're part of something, even though, just because you elect to buy a Mac, you're part of that tribe because you've got the Apple symbol on the outside of your laptop, right? You've got something to identify yourself. People like to be identified, that they're part of something. That's really clever marketing. It's going actually into a whole different conversation really about how to create a herd. I once heard a really great presentation by Yannick Silver about zealots and how you create this tribe of people, and good marketers do that when they become customers. They understand that they're not making a sale, not getting a customer to make a sale. They're making a sale to get a customer, and that's a big difference. That's a big differentiator. But often it's about what you stand against and using that to your advantage. And Dyson have done that very effectively within their marketing, and getting people to place themselves in their category of one. Moving them into a place where they're only competing with themselves. In fact, it's not buying that model of Dyson. It's not buying a Dyson. It's which model of Dyson you're going to buy. That's what they're doing. And that's very powerful in terms of that branding and the way they've been able to indoctrinate people in that regard. Yeah.
Interesting. And so let's take it to another stage. So we talked about the products inside, and I can get that. Let's say, for example, it is an accountant or someone's providing a service where really showing their weakness as an individual might not be what their customers want to hear about, potentially.
Sure.
And is there a way where they may not be known, they may not have this big brand behind them, they might just be the local accountant that wants to kind of like get more customers in their local area? What sort of story should they be using, if they should use a story? Is there something they can use in that way?
I think it's really important that they are selling on their own merit as a business, away from being distracted from what they could do to pull people in, and to not really selling on their merits is not a good thing at all, you know. And there's lots of tactics that people can use, and that's the reason why having a core story is so important, even if you are an accountant, for example, because that's unique and people buy into that. I do feel that it still comes back to what you may stand, you know, what is good practice, what is bad practice. And at the moment that you start to become an educator in the marketplace, you are going to become, you know, you're going to be have some authority. You're certainly going to have some credibility. And even if people, you know, even in a competitive marketplace, you're much better to be the educator, because you're writing the script, right? You're writing the script, and you know, if you're doing the right things, then people are naturally going to gravitate towards that because you're educating them. And I would interweave that education with that unique story. You know, where you want people to be is to say this. What you want to think of really is, if all things were equal, if all things in accountancy were equal, why would they buy from you? Like, really kind of dig down into why would they buy from you. If everything was equal, why would they buy from you? And you've really got to think about, it's not just a benefit statement, you know. You've really got to, you know, a practice that we do all the time is that, you know, features and benefits list, and really just don't be, you know, make a list of features for sure, but be clear on what those benefits are that somebody's going to get. And, you know, it's basic stuff, but not a lot of people really do it when they come to kind of put this idea of, you know, honing their messaging to attract more customers. They just don't do it well enough.
It's a really interesting topic, because I know that, I can't remember where I've been racking my brain a little bit whilst in speaking there, like, but I heard it was an internet radio show, so it was like a local radio show to begin with. The internet came out, and so it went international. And they're kind of like a strapline before a marketing agency worked with them was something along the lines of, we play the latest rock, heavy metal, and whatever else sort of thing. They're saying what we do. And then they changed their marketing message to be like, you'll never ever hear Justin Bieber or Lady Gaga on a radio show.
Right.
And their listeners just immediately went through the roof as a result, because it's almost just like spoke to people so much more clearly, as opposed to say, we're the best at this, just kind of got lost with the wash. We definitely don't do this, differentiated them, and did wonders for that radio show. So I suppose as an accountant, one thing that you could potentially do if this was your message is almost like, we make accountancy more simple for the business owner, and then you could go about and actually create like demystifying videos. So like, here's how to fill in your own tax return, here's how to work out your tax at the end of the year, here's like take all the different types of forms of tax and say, here's how to work it out for yourself, or here's some quick calculations, or here's some things you can do to make your business tick along so much more easily and quickly, and plan for the future, etc.
I think what's interesting is that, you know, when we talk about core story, origin story, whatever it may be, trying to create that unique advantage that you can have, you know, I don't want to discount that strategy, and I understand why it might not be totally applicable to communicate some of that stuff as a business owner, maybe an accountant, solicitor practice, whatever it may be in some industries. But it's, you have to be able to at least create something, or create a person within the business, a character, anything that people can that can begin to know, like, and trust. It might not necessarily be you. You might not be the best person to create those talking head videos, right? But there may be somebody in the office that's actually, you know, perhaps to be a little bit more theatrical than you, that you could give that job to, and they'd love to own getting in front of the camera, you know, and giving some good content away, talking the language of the business. And I think that's the other thing here that I just want to impress upon the people that are listening to this. The language that you use is so important to a lot of people don't put a lot by this, but it's so important. People have their own vocabulary, and certainly in some marketplaces, if you're in the healthcare sector, or you're a chiropractor or you're a dentist, you've kind of got your own vocabulary, and you need to sometimes, you either need to hone in on that language that you're using, or change it in some way to talk very directly to potential customers, right? But I think for me as a brand, you need to have somebody or something, maybe some kind of device, maybe it's a character. Sometimes you see that a lot in brand advertising. People are using some kind of character to know, like, and trust, to kind of get people to buy into in some way, before they make a buying decision, before they're there. Or it might just be to the point of getting them to another step. I saw an estate agent recently, a growing estate agents. They're a franchise. I wonder if they're listening to this. It'd be funny if they are. They are. Their whole business is around. In fact, can I even name the brand? Is that's good, because it would make sense.
If it's, I don't know who they are, so yeah, why not?
Okay. Well, we'll just kind of keep it hypothetical, right? So, they're using sheep as their kind of, in a lot of their branding, and they kind of like every bit of language that you use is to do with the character of that sheep. So kind of they've made this kind of almost mascot, I suppose, but that's the language that they're using, and they're making themselves a category of one, something totally different to what everyone else is doing, because of the language that they're using and the way that they're presenting it with this particular sheep. It's interesting, but it's different, and you want to find every way that you possibly can to differentiate yourself, either that with your story, a device, or the language you use, or, as I mentioned before, some very, critical core things that people will say, this is what we're about, and this is what we're not about. It's black and white to us, and where do you stand? And if you stand over here, then that's great. And if you stand here, then, you're one of those. You're one of the, if you're in marketing speak now, it would be writing copy to say average business owners do this.
Yeah.
Right? But people in the, in the 3% category do this. And that's where we are. This is what we stand against. This is, so.
I love what you just said there a minute ago with, like, it's black and white to us, which is so nice, because I think that it'll make the customer, no matter where they are in the buying cycle, it make them feel like they need to learn something about the way you see things. You being as the expert, you being the person they're looking to find out more information from, and then that expert says it's very black and white. It makes it feel simple, like I fall into one or two camps. And if I don't, there's something wrong with me. If that makes sense, because it feels like you're the expert saying it as it is. And I have to fall into one of those categories. It's kind of like it's a decision at that point to say, what's my identity? Am I going to be the sort of person that does do this, or the person that doesn't do this? I like that.
That goes so much deeper as well, to kind of the way that you present your products as well. And some people in their businesses will create their own systems, or maybe a framework, and they'll give those framework or systems a brand. So in one of my businesses, we have something called the PRISM process. And the PRISM process is just a name for what we do to ensure quality control, right? But we've made that up. We've put what we would usually do, what makes our service to be a high value, high quality service, and we've put a wrapper around it that people can actually understand a little bit more, rather than just saying we offer, a lifetime warranty or 30-day money back guarantee, and we guarantee satisfaction guarantee. We actually say, we have a proprietary system that we use called the PRISM process, that's unique to us, and industry unique, that allows us to maintain the highest standards at all times, and that means that, and then go into the benefit statement of what it means to them. Again, subtly on the outside, when people are looking at that, they can discern and identify, between two different things. These people do this, these people don't do this. But these people are giving me a reason why they do this. They don't they're not just kind of doing it, they're telling me why. So using words like proprietary system or framework is fine, but then you've got to give a reason why, you do that. And again, that comes back down to that language. And, you can interroll that kind of, this is what we stand for. And one of the tools that we use is this, and that's what you need. This is the bridge that you need, whatever it may be, whatever hyperbole you're using to create and conjure up in their mind. But it's so important to do that.
Okay, so if someone was to, and we're seeing other areas of where we can build this know, like, and trust as well within the funnel and the client relationship or the customer relationship. But if someone's thinking, right, okay, well, where do I begin to think about my story? It might not just be one story, it might be several stories. It might be kind of like is it a case of like looking at the business that you've got or the idea that you've got and thinking, right, what is my core message behind all of this? What do I really stand for, stand against? What do I want to say to the world? What does our business stand for? And then off that, think about, right, well, what would then be the story that would back that up, or what would the story that would naturally resonate with that currently exists? Is there something that can pull out of that?
Yeah, sure.
What would be the strategy you would go with?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I think it's kind of like starting this like once upon a time, okay? Mm-hmm. I was working in this job, and I recognized suddenly that there was a requirement, a need to teach people how to do this or whatever it may be. Luckily for me, I got the skills to be able to help those people, and as a byproduct of that, I can now do this through my business called X, Y, and Z. Okay, so it's kind of like once upon a time, suddenly this came to me. Luckily for me, I had this, and then happily ever after, I can now do this. So that's kind of your company story of how that began. From an individual perspective, you need to be able to create your identity. You can say, and for me, we often do this on maybe like a thank you page after somebody's opted in for some content, or really, this is the sort of this origin kind of core story that some people might be familiar with, is the indoctrination process you should do at every opportunity you can. The beginning of webinars, the beginning of videos, even sales videos. Once you've established that company story, you then want to speak about. So, my name's Ollie. I started my own business when I was 15, building computers. Now I've lived in Stafford in the UK for the past 32 years. I was born here. I was never given anything from my parents, but they both worked really hard. I had I was a national tennis player. I played against Andy Murray, and all these little seeds that you kind of putting in there. There's kind of little things that people grab onto. Like, oh, you started your business when you were 15. Oh, that's quite interesting. Oh, you've lived in Stafford. Oh, they live close to there, right? Oh, well, that's interesting. I wonder if he knows Eccleshaw, like somewhere close, right? Like, oh, he's playing against Andy Murray. Wow, I must, So, sometimes when you start to say that core story, you'll have people come up to you. If you say that at the beginning of a presentation, a webinar, whatever, I've had people come up to me that have become clients, and they'll go, "Oh, yeah, do you remember, like, you were telling me that when you had that bad breakup with your business partner and you were sitting outside your accountants and you didn't know what to do, and the business was just about to be struck off, and you did that direct mail campaign. I literally had been in exactly the same place. Do you know what I mean? You get that, and people buy into that, and that's reality. None of that's made up. All of this stuff is real, but nobody can ever take that away from you as a person. So you need to mate up, and I personally feel that your personal identity and the way that you create that needs to be married up to your business story of how that got created as a result of who you are. So I think it's important to do both things, because people are going to buy into it from both sides. But it's so important to get that across, and to get that across in every opportunity that you possibly can do. If they're also buying from you, and I said this, you might have an advocate or somebody in your business that's prepared to do that for you. Let them tell their story. And for your staff, if they're doing presentations, or maybe even on the about page of your website, let people in on what they like. Are they a death metal fan? Do they like, what is it that they like? And I think that's important. It's kind of become a bit cliche, on about us pages and stuff like that. But I think that it's important to just let people in from the outside into what they're getting involved with. So that they can clearly understand what you stand for as a business, and how you got to where you are, because everybody's got a different story. And I think, for me, you need to sprinkle some of that across your marketing, and use those stories, and call upon those stories to impress upon people certain key facts of this now gives me, this is why I'm qualified to talk about this. Okay. Yeah. So, quite often people just jump in with a load of benefits of what it's going to do for you, what it's going to do for you, what it's going to do for you. And they don't really set the scene well enough to get that buy-in early doors of going, this is why I'm talking to you about this, and why now is the best time for you to consider this. And I can talk about this because.
And I think that kind of like, because when you were going through kind of like the structure of the story, almost of like the way to present it as such, I was thinking to myself, okay, I've heard people do it like that before, and I know the principles in play, but I love the fact it starts off with something like, it's almost like, here's the gap in the market and here's the problem. And I suppose like from a personal story, you can say, here's what I noticed. But as a bigger brand, like the Dyson of the world, like the accountant on the high street, so to speak, they can almost be like, they just highlight the gap that's still existing in the marketplace. Like I think with Dyson, they were talking about the bag and the Hoover, so to speak, and it's not like that any longer. And with an accountant, it could be, don't you just get fed up when you speak to an accountant? It's just full of jargon, and do you know what I mean? There's something along those lines. It fits into that problem that the customer is having right now, and if you can tap into that and then say, here's why we're different, here's what we stand against that particular problem, and it really makes that story work.
Yeah, and something we haven't really spoke about, and I think I could have probably articulated it better, but I'll certainly articulate it now in regards to the company story, is, most businesses that we speak to in our agency, what kind of differentiates us is that we really do get into understanding the priorities of the business over the next 12 months or so, maybe even longer, to understand what we actually need to do to make an impact on that business. We align ourselves to delivering marketing assets that actually are going to get results to get the business from where it is now to where it's going to get to in the future. Now, the thing is that often through the process, in terms of when people's looking at your business from the outside in, they want to no, we've actually just created a document to kind of support this about what we're about, is getting people to understand what your values are as a business. What do you actually believe in? Why do you even exist? I know that these are like basic questions, but what's your purpose as a business? Because how can somebody know if you're going to serve them well if it's if you're the right people to get involved with, if you don't even know why if the person that's trying to sell to you doesn't even know why they exist in the first place. So what's the purpose? Where are you trying to get to as a business, and let other people in on that so that they can feel like they're part of something. What's your mission? And then what do you stand for? What are those values? Some people use a good way to, if you're not sure of kind of, where do you start with having core values as a business, have a look at some quotes. Have a look at some quotes that kind of resonate with you, and that'll give you some indication for, some of those values that you should believe in. And you should align the whole business should be aligned to those values. You should hire and fire to those values. It's probably a whole different podcast. The reason why it's important is because when it comes to indoctrination, when it comes to know, like, and trust, you've got to know what you stand for. And part of that is your purpose, why you exist, and what those values are as well. And not a lot of people instill that in their messages, in their language, in their follow-up, in their nurture campaigns, in their funnels, to get that buy-in from people, because people want to feel like what you're doing, where you're going, and they also want to feel like they're part of something as well.
Yeah, very much so. I think that a really good resource for this is like Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Good book. And also I did the course of his, and it's a really good course, the online course of it. And that kind of starts with this inner circle of like, start with why, then it's about like what you do and how you do it. But no one's interested really about what you do and how you do it until they know why you do it. Right. And all the big brands kind of that are very, very successful, like the Apples of the world, why they exist. They're kind of creating products not just to make money, they're creating products to change the world, really, at the end of the day. And that's, you can kind of buy into that. And that's why they've got this huge tribe of people that buy Apple stuff. I mean, if I look around the office, we are Appled up to the eyeballs, just because that's what I invest in. And I know that the language of all of it fits together and kind of just ties all together very much to what you've been saying today. So awesome. So I know this is kind of like, I'm sure we've been speaking for quite some time, but in terms of getting this know, like, and trust, obviously your story and your personality and what you've got to say, like we've been discussing so far, is core to all of that. Is there anything else that like you see as like another real big factor to get someone to know, like, and trust you, or is like just start with story, keep it simple, go with that, and then build more as it feels congruent to you and the company? Or is there other things that you would say definitely do this as well?
Sure. I think just get really, really clear on your company story, your individual story, your identity, what makes you unique, and what's your brand stance, what you stand for. Going through those four things kind of is a really, really good starting place to then look at how you sprinkle some of that across your marketing in every aspect of it. But to really think about this as not a series of 3 emails. This is something that you want to build into every email that you send. Have in mind, how to create that how to make that message unique, and how to tie it back in some way to that story, or any of those 4 principles, really. We see this a lot in terms of if you're sending people to you're sending nurture-based content out. A good way to do this is to create videos. I mean, the power of video is that you've got another modality to be able to actually kind of articulate that message in a way that's from the heart, rather than it coming just off the page. And what we find is, whenever I've tried to script videos about my backstory, they don't really work, because I know that story. I know why we started our business. I know what makes me unique to a certain extent. And people want to hear that from me. So if you think that you've got to kind of go and what's a good idea, what's a good practice is to get all of this stuff out. get it all out there, right? But as early on as you possibly can do, get in front of the camera and just talk a little bit about, you know, why you're here, how this all started, and why, you know, how you can help people. This is what we believe in, this is what we don't. And you want to repel people as much as you want to bring people towards you. So, you know, don't always be thinking about, oh God, you know, that's going to sound so bad. You know, I remember writing some copy once saying that I was a 19-year-old university dropout. Well, that's not going to be attractive to like lots of people, but to some people, they're going to go, yeah, fine. You know, this
I was
guy,
like that too, almost. Yeah,
he's real. You know, people buy from people, and more importantly, people buy. You know, those stories that are associated to those people and that experience that they've been through that qualifies them to talk about what they're talking about right now in the present moment. So
it's really
a great way of doing that.
It's really interesting, and I think that using my own business as a case study in the agency, I went through this process and wrote down, and in fact I actually worked with a media trainer very briefly to interview me and ask me those questions that I'd never even thought about asking myself, like, because they're really just getting to the core of like, what are you as a business? If I was to write a story about you, what would I pull on? What would be the interesting things about what you do and why you do what you do? And I found out what my why was, and it was a case of like working with clients to bring their best work into the world, and that's what felt really connected with me. But the big differentiator for me was like, it's working with our clients, it's not working for our clients. And that distinction for me was like, that would just make it a lot more fun for me and my clients if I feel like I'm working with them as opposed to they just pay me and I do the work.
And actually, it's like so attractive. I mean, like when you say that, I know that it's a very subtle kind of change in language that you just used, but it's such a big deal. You know, if anybody hearing that, you know, you don't need to be the best copywriter in the world to literally use that kind of language, right?
Yeah.
And for it to be attractive.
It did take a bit of like conversations and getting it down and thinking, right, here's my 4-page thing of what we stand for, and then just narrowing it down to one sentence took a bit of time. But once I got it and I felt comfortable, and also defined it for myself and refined it, because it was like sometimes they're unconscious, but you can't verbalize it easily sometimes. As soon as I realized what it was, we changed the way that we did the business. We changed the process, so we didn't do it like everybody else was doing, where it's a set fee for the work we do, etc. It was like, do you know what? If I really stand by that statement, we can get paid on results. We'll work with our clients. There doesn't have to be this upfront fee or anything. We'll work with them, and sure, we'll get paid better in the long run, but we're much more invested with our clients, and the clients will get a much better service from us as well. And it was really interesting, like how everything started changing as a result of that reason why we do it, and forming our own story for ourselves, and just more like bringing it to life as opposed to inventing something. It's just like it's always been there, just it hadn't been refined. So that correlates exactly with what you're saying. So I've experienced it firsthand, and it's something that I know I've done, and I understand the power of it. But when we're doing video ads, typically we won't necessarily go into a huge amount of depth behind that unless the company have got it already. But I imagine like once someone's opted in, they're getting through the funnel and they're getting that indoctrination, that know, like, and trust. You have to pull that out, because in order to make more sales and form a deeper relationship with all those customers, there needs to be that story, there needs to be that know, like, and trust in place. So massively valuable.
No, sure. And you know, for me, the moment that somebody opts in, somebody that joins your list, so to speak, wherever they are, whatever, you need to, you want to take that opportunity right away to create that identity, and to get those key messages and principles in the mind of the person that's just joined in to your world, really. For me, this doesn't have to be complicated. You just need to think about this in your marketing, your message, and get those stories in there as much as you possibly can do. If you've got more of them, everybody's got a unique story, and even through failure, I mean, this is the truth, is that there are some things that have happened to a lot of people, and out of failure, there's been unbelievable successes. And people like to hear what you learn. What did you learn from that? And that's what made you are what you are now.
Yeah, very much so. Ollie, great session, loved it.
Cool.
Lots of amazing value in that, and look forward to the next call.
Cheers, Tom. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate.